So you found the skeleton. How would you tell people that you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Matt with Maddie. What is this? 20 something? 21.
20 something.
21 is what it is.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Our stream's old enough to drink.
Yay, and so are we. So you know what? We'll just take a quick drink.
So are we.
Here we go.
Oh, I'm gonna get some good can opening ASMR.
Ooh, there it is. I heard it.
There it is.
Very nice.
Cheers.
All right. So today's show is called Matt is an Ordained Essene. And we're actually going to talk a little bit about that before we dive back into the video. But before we do either of those, we'll go through the rules. Because, as you guys might know, or not if you're new, we've had a lot of new people subscribe to the channel recently. Yeah, so we've had about 500 in the last few days.
People.
Yeah.
Damn, that's
yeah,
awesome.
That's pretty cool. So, in case you're unaware, my Tuesday streams and some of my Saturday streams, have a set of drinking rules. And these are something that, by the way, first, you are not at all required to play. Not even a little bit. You're perfectly welcome to hang out and not play. That is A-okay. You're also allowed to play.
Or play with a non-alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
I have an emergency backup Gatorade because it's hot and humid here.
You're also allowed to play with things other than alcohol. You know, get a vape pen or something. Do what you want. I'm not in control of you. I'm in control of me, and I guess I'm kind of in control of chat in that I can hide or just whatever people. But also Savage. Hold on. I gotta make sure I get the whole name in, so I have to switch tabs a little bit here. Savage Quetzalcoatlus Third Humorous Cobra for $2 says, "Hi, new people. Yes, hello. So, if you do decide to play along with alcohol or some other inebriating substance, please be aware that you need to know your own limits. Drink or otherwise consume responsibly. Do not go operate heavy machinery or drive a car, pilot an aircraft. Remote-controlled vehicles are probably okay if they're small, very small, and you are inside. But even then, be careful. Don't control an interplanetary rover, like the Mars rover. If that's your job or something, don't do that while you're drunk. Also, we here, both Maddie and I, and just the channel as a general, do not accept liability or responsibility if you go out and do something dangerous. Also, don't text your ex. It's a bad idea. You think it's going to be a good idea. It's not. It's never a good idea.
Not.
Unless you're not, it's like an ex that like you still hang out with, you're still friends with, that you actually talk normally. Most exes aren't that. And if your ex is that, you're probably not tempted to drunk text him or her. That's probably not the kind of ex you have in that case. Because, yeah. Anyway, we will take a drink. Anytime our creationist says something that's so stupid, we just kind of have to cool our brains. Yeah, to cool our brains. By the way, Royland for $2 says, wants to know about a significant other. Sorry, wants to know what spot in on Sheep-It with a Godzilla. Well, first, we'll take a drink for the Godzilla. So
that's another drink trigger.
Yes, it is. If someone super chats or milestone chats anything with a Godzilla or Ghidorah or Mothra emoji in it, we take a drink. Now, this is in reference to my my Sheep-It account. Now, Sheep-It is a render farm that I use to get my animations done. And the way it works is either I or people on my behalf render frames for the farm, and that gets me points, which determines how much priority my frames get when I upload them. So the more points I have, the more high priority my points are, or my frames are for people who are also rendering on the render farm. Now, Royland's has significant other has started adding 3 to sometimes I think up to 5 instances of Sheep-It on my account on my behalf, greatly increasing my points. And I am currently in second on the entire Sheep-It platform. The person in first, however, just rendered in the last 30 days just under 1 million frames, whereas I rendered almost 120,000 frames. So I've got a long way to go to top him, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it does mean that I now am in second out of approximately 6,000 users.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really, really high ranking. I'm very thankful. So that's what that is. For $10, Too Young to Feel As Old says, our kids have been driving us nuts for hours and we found that the Gummy Bear song on repeat calms them down. I'm losing my sanity. Glad I can throw in my earbuds and listen to y'all instead. Oh my goodness.
I feel that so intensely. My baby girl's she's having a rough day. There's been a lot of Bluey, which of all the things we could be watching is not the worst.
So at one point when I had my nieces on the weekend, two of my nieces, right? The older one she never wanted to do anything besides watch Power Rangers in space, specifically in space, which is weird because it wasn't the one that was on at this time, right? Power Rangers in Space is from like 2000, no, not even 2000, like 1999 or something like that, right? Yeah, it's like from 1999, maybe into 2000. But that's all she wanted. And so after these shows, you watch a little Power Rangers on my Discord server, and we just finished with In Space, and it's like the first time I've been able to watch In Space since then because we watched it like 8 times in a row.
Just over and over.
Eventually, it's like you have to pick a new season if you want to watch Power Rangers. We're not watching In Space again. Yeah. Anyway, that's not a drinking rule. That's not neither here nor there. The next drinking rule is we will take a drink if Raw Matt, gets something factually correct, which is virtually impossible for him, but we do get more and more generous with that over time. Now, it has to be him not just quoting someone. He actually has to have a thought in his own brain. Now, he could have gotten this correct thing from someone else, but
doesn't matter. He has to formulate a correct thought in his own brain that comes out of his own mouth.
Exactly. Now, we will also take a drink if Raw Matt tells a joke that doesn't land or a story that didn't happen. So, for instance, if he were to, say, confuse a conversation that he had with his shampoo bottle, that's assuming that Raw Matt knows that a shampoo bottle... Now, to be fair, his hair looks like it's usually reasonably clean, so I'll give him that. He probably has shampoo. Fair enough. Yeah. If he confuses a conversation that he won, like an argument he won with his shampoo bottle, with an argument, say, that he had with a Berkeley professor on a hypothetical airplane to nowhere, we'll take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink if Raw Matt, mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party. That's the NSDAP, if you want to abbreviate it in German. Google that if you don't know what that is. Or various prominent members of that party, or some of their more historically significant activities in the 20th century. That's the way to put it to not give me a yellow dollar sign on this video, which actually a number of my streams have been getting that yellow dollar sign lately. It's very unfortunate. Anyway, we'll also take a drink if Maddie or I can correctly guess what Matt's next point is going to be. That's one of the hard ones because Matt is all over the place. Now, we do have a few extras for the other Matt that we tend to cover, Matt Powell, but they don't really apply as much to Raw Matt. He doesn't usually do as many like whiplash subject changes or bring up Columbine every single time. He tends not to do those things, so we're not going to worry too much about that. We do have Trojan Source, which probably also won't come up much for Matt, because Matt doesn't bother to use sources most of the time.
Yeah.
But Trojan Source, if it comes up, is when someone cites a source, and we check the source, and not only does it fail to support their point, but it directly contradicts their point. We call that a Trojan Source, and we take a drink for it. Now, there are a few ways besides the Godzilla emoji that you guys can get us drink, but also if Godzilla or Mothra come by audibly, we'll take a drink for that too. That could happen. So if you guys want to make us drink, you can do the emoji thing. You can also super chat or milestone chat anything to the effect that AIG, that's Answers in Genesis, are a bag of dicks. Now you're going to be a little careful, because if you just type that in, YouTube will censor it. It won't let you send that. So you got to be a little clever. Got to put it in a different language that YouTube doesn't actively censor. Pro tip, if you just type it in Spanish, they will probably catch that. They check Spanish. But, if you do, like, Latin or something, they probably won't check that. Because who does YouTube in Latin besides that one guy, Luke, from Polymathy? Yeah, exactly. Now, we also will take a drink for each gifted membership. So, by the little dollar sign that lets you do super chats, there's also a gift memberships option. If you do that, for each membership you gift, we'll take a drink. Now, if you get to like 30, we're not going to take 30 individual drinks. I'm just going to finish my beer, which, by the way, today is a fat tire. So there you go.
Nice. I'm not gonna lie to you. I probably won't finish mine because I'm drinking a mixed drink. It'll depend on where we're at. I've got a pre-mixed Coke Zero Jack Daniels thing.
Pre-mixed cocktails are always a iffy proposition for me.
Yeah, it's not super great. Like it would taste better if I just made myself my own Jack and Coke.
But it's easy.
But it might I know, right? It's very simple, but it might also be like it doesn't taste super great because I don't really like Coke Zero. It has that artificial sweetener flavor. But my very sweet husband saw them at the store and knows I like Jack and Coke and was like, I got these for you. And so I said, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, if someone buys me booze, I'm generally going to say thank you. Unless it's that weird, like Bacardi tropical thing that I got one day because I was already at the store, and I think I was the one driving the store. I was already under the effect of something. I think I was actually like right after one of these streams where I'd already had a bit much to drink. And then Ben Tolman was like, hey, I'm going to the store. You want to come? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, oh, you got to get something for next week, right? I'm like, I guess. He's like, look at this. It's like $10. And it's this bottle of Bacardi Tropical or something. And like, I took a little bit of, I still have the bottle as a reminder of the hubris of man.
Yeah. My very first like experience with alcohol ever was like coconut Bacardi and orange soda.
Oh my goodness. I'm surprised you still drink alcohol after that.
That was a college party experience.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. Well, anyway, let's see where I think that covers it. If it doesn't cover it and I forgot something, I'll let you guys know. We also have one that I don't think is going to come up, but it's called we added it recently. It only can happen once. Right? We can only do it once, but it's called Ad Hominid, and it's where a creationist confuses Lucy with just all of Australopithecus, the genus. Like, the entire thing.
Right.
And then just pretends that Lucy is the one example of that entire thing. That probably won't come up, though. So, first thing that we want to talk real quick about before we get into the actual video, though, is the Essenes. So, if you notice in the thumbnail, I have... Now, to be fair, I did not buy the book. I got a screenshot of the cover of the book from Amazon, and then I used my skill at 3D rendering to create a facsimile of the book. That is not a real book.
Excellent.
But in it, Ramat, who on the cover of it looks like a weird zombie ghoul or something, holding a rock that he looks like he can barely lift with his scrawny chicken arms. It's a very weird cover. But in it, he claims to be a number of things, including an ordained Essene. In case you guys don't know... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's not a thing!
No, it's not.
That's not a thing! No. Also, please enjoy, like, guys, weird things I happen to know from because of high school Bible, my weirdly comprehensive high school Bible class. Guys, so okay, I'm gonna ramble about the Essenes, and then you can correct me. Is that okay, Dapper?
Sure, as long as what you say is something I know to be incorrect. It might not be.
Okay, cool. So the Essenes is this group of like hermit desert dwellers from like they existed around the time of Christ, and then like before and after him.
Not long after.
Not long after, right. And they were all like so this was like a weird separatist Jewish sect that was like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go live in these caves in the desert and not poop on Saturdays and follow the laws of the Torah just insanely strictly because we need to do that to get because the folks in charge of things there in Jerusalem, they're not doing it right. They're not following the law, right? That's why we've been taken over by the Romans. So we have to go live in seclusion and be super, super, super good so that like God will fix it.
In fact, actually, they were expecting an apocalyptic end of the world battle in which God would destroy all of the unrighteous, which would include the Romans and most of the Greeks at least, and all of the, the Jews who weren't quite doing it right. And that they would then go and take possession of the temple and become the remnant that becomes the new totality, essentially, of Israel. Well, they were right that there was a battle, and it did take place in and around Jerusalem, and then they just went extinct. Because turns out that rather than, them or the angels or something winning, the Romans won, renamed Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina, kicked all the Jews out, and then only allowed them in on Tish B'Av, which was like once a year. And that persisted until the Ottoman period, when the Jews were allowed to live in Jerusalem again, eventually.
Yeah. So, one, ordination in this group.
Not a thing.
Super not a thing. Two, they don't exist anymore. They all died out around that 80, 70. Three, Matt's not living in a cave. He's got internet. He wrote a book.
I'll bet he also poops on Saturday.
I bet he poops on Saturdays.
Well, then again, being a monofruitarian, I don't know, maybe he has really weird bowels.
Maybe, I don't know. So Alice Markel, yes, they were an old-timey prepper.
Yeah, basically.
So they don't exist anymore. Also, you can't, a Christian Essene is not a thing, right? Nope. So if he's claiming to be a Christian, then you're specifically not an Essene.
By the way, real quick, Silent Tetrapod, member for 6 months, and is at the Tetrapod level, which is convenient, says AIG is a pouch of pepper protruding peckers. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you.
Ooh, cheers.
So yeah, overall, this is all of this is just not a thing, right? It's like claiming to be like a bishop of the Sibylline cult, right? First of all, they didn't have bishops. Second, they're completely gone. Right. There's no one left to initiate you into this cult. It's just not a thing. Yeah. Oh, and Silent Tetrapod also gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So let's take some drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And by the way, those went to real quick. Noram Deputsal. It's a new name. If I pronounce your names correctly, please correct me. The Fallen from Heaven, Gregory Nitsky, Rye, and Mike Brooks. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So, I actually do have a legitimate question. So I know what ordination in liturgical Christian traditions mean. So I know what that means in Catholicism and Anglicanism. I don't know what ordination means outside of that. Right. So is it appropriate to describe the ordination of, say, a rabbi or an imam?
So that's going to vary a bit,
or is it a different?
Right. So there are official ceremonies that in many other religions mark someone as part of some sect of some subgroup of the religion that has some special liturgical function, right? So
yeah.
For instance, rabbis get something called, forgive me if I get this pronunciation wrong, but something called a shmicha, which is basically your official authorization to go out and do rabbi stuff. But imams don't really get that. Instead, what tends to happen is someone, a group of Muslims who's looking for an imam will interview candidates who will put themselves forward, and usually they'll have gone to some kind of theological school for their particular theological stream of Islam and things like that. But there's not an official, well, now we put this oil on your forehead in the sign of a crescent, and you say the prayers over you from Surah 1 or something, and now you're an officially ordained. There's just, traditionally, an imam is just someone, at least this is Sunni Islam. Shia Islam is a little bit more strict about this, and you actually can't just become a new imam in Shia Islam. But they're also 10% of the Muslim population, so I'm going with the larger group, right? Imams are basically just people who know a lot of stuff about the religion, and so now you're the imam. And so, that's strictly speaking, how, an ordination is not something that makes sense in the context of Second Temple Judaism. So there were priests, but to be a priest, you had to be a temple worker at all, generally speaking. You had to be a Levite.
Yeah, you had to be from the tribe of Levi.
And to be an actual priest, you had to be a Kohen, which is a particular family within the tribe of Levi. And if you were a male in that family, you were raised to do priestly stuff, and you couldn't just become a priest because you really liked priest stuff. Like, it was a family business. If you weren't in the family, you couldn't be a priest. And if you were, you didn't have a whole lot of options other than just completely apostatizing.
Okay.
So,
well, because like ordination in like the Episcopalian sense, which should also be like Catholic.
Yeah.
Is
the basic idea of ordination in like Anglicanism, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, all very, very similar.
Yeah, so it's like it takes a bishop to make a priest, and there is like a special like ceremony, and there's rites and things like that. But like it takes 3 bishops to make a bishop, right? And this is important because at least in the liturgy, in the tradition of the church, that means there's an unbroken line of laying on of hands and ordaining bishops and priests that goes back to Peter. Right?
Well, okay, it goes back to an apostle. Now, in the Catholic Church, the apostolic line of Peter has, or actually, I don't know that it is Peter. It might be Peter. There's one apostolic line that's basically completely dominated the entire Catholic Church, but you know,
I don't know. When I was confirmed and the bishop put his hands on me, he said specifically unbroken line back to Peter.
Well, so each bishop in the Catholic Church, or in many cases the Anglican Church, is supposed to know where their chain of ordination goes back to, but it doesn't always have to be Peter. It could be James or Bartholomew.
So like my point here is that like there is a world where like if that line was broken, you couldn't ordain anyone else, right? Like so like again like ordination means things.
Yeah.
And the word is being used inappropriately.
Yeah, generally speaking, you can't just declare yourself to be ordained in some way. Fits of rage.
I declare
ordination.
Bankruptcy.
Fits of rage.
Ordination.
Fits of rage has been a member for 2 months at the Tetrabrod level. Says first time in Matt with Maddie. My liver isn't ready, and also sends an AIG as a bag of dicks emoji. So we'll take a drink for that. Also, pelagic coming from the grounds like spaghetti tunicates. For €2 says breaking spaghetti before you boil it is an AIG move. Yes, yes it is. You know what? We'll take a drink for that. Get a bigger pot, man. Just do it. All right, here we go. We're going to actually listen to some more Ramat. Now, Ramat was telling us about how the volcanoes come about because of the rapid continental drift during the flood, subducting all that oceanic plate around the Ring of Fire. And last time, we got to the point where he said, and that's what caused the Ice Age. We didn't get into it much, but we're going to get a little bit more now. And now that we have Maddie, and we're still at the beginning of the episode, Maddie, you get to go a little bit more in depth into why this is silly.
Yay!
Yeah. So I only have the choicest suffering for you. Like I'm like Pinhead right here.
Love it.
You find them on the ridge.
That's
it's
Volcanoes.
called the Ring of Fire. And look at where this Ring of Fire is. And you find that when the continents came to a rest at the end of the flood.
Which, by the way, the continents are not at rest. They are currently moving. That's just a verifiable measurement. We've measured it with like radar stations and like satellites and such. Like
you mostly use GPS these days. GPS is what you use to track tectonic plate movement.
Yeah, and it's just still a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They built up that friction and they hit, and they created the lava flows and everything that created the Ice Age. And this Ice Age is what we look, and when we see in the fossil record, we go, look at the Ice Age that was here.
Okay, so Maddie, would you like to explain to us whether or not lava flows can cause the Ice Age?
Sure can't. I'll take a sure can't, Bob, for 200. Okay, so I think this is what he's saying is happening. Help me. I've got to parse apart what he's saying. Feels like nonsense.
Well, I mean, it is.
So it sounds like he's saying that it is. He specifically said it's the friction between two plates that cause lava flows. So it sounds like he thinks that like a strike slip fault, right? So like this.
Well, he's specifically talking about the Ring of Fire, which is a subduction zone.
Which is subduction, but he hasn't said subduction.
I would be willing to grant it to him that he's talking about subduction.
Okay. So okay, so let's say it's subduction, but he said friction. So it's we've got an oceanic plate that's diving under a continental plate. And so he's saying that the friction, which would then cause heat, which is what causes lava flows. So his claim here is that the lava flows and the things inside the volcano would be melted like crust, which, friends, it's not. That's not how volcanoes work. And then, so, because that would create locally lava on the surface, right? The process he's describing isn't what happens, but if it was, that's what would happen, right? It would create like lava on the surface, like you see like on Hawaii, right?
Mhm.
If you see like lava flows on the surface. So that's not going to cause like a volcanic eruption, right? That's not even going to make a volcano. That's just these like that. Okay, because what is a volcano, you ask? Great question. Love that. So a volcano is it's going to be a point where you have a pocket of mantle, right? So mantle, not crust. These are different things. Mantle that has liquefied, right? So the mantle, if we dug down and could look at it, we would see a solid, right? It's solid silicate material. On geologic timescales, it does convect and flow, but that's on geologic timescales. So if we dug down and looked at it, we would see solid rock, just very hot solid rock, but solid. So there are processes that cause that to melt. A very common one is a chemical reaction that's caused from the introduction of water into the mantle. So when you get an oceanic plate diving under a continental plate, it brings a lot of water with it. That water mixes into the mantle and causes it to melt. So it's a chemical reaction. So now we have this liquid, right? A pocket of liquid. And it's starting to build up, right? That creates pressure. Eventually, that pressure is going to find a weak point at the surface and erupt, right? Then it's going to erupt. It creates new material as it goes. And over time, that kind of forms a mountain, right? This happens over and over and over. And that's how a volcano works. Well, like we wouldn't describe where we do see like liquid, like lava bubbles up to the surface and just kind of is at the surface and cools and solidifies. That's what you see at the center of like two spreading oceanic plates, like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And that doesn't make what we think of as a volcano, right? That's not building up a mountain. It's
the ridge is mountainous-ish.
It's mountainous. It's moving fast. Like the buildup and the motion of the plates are like the motion of the plate relative to the rate of buildup is faster than it is like where you see a volcano.
By the way, real quick, DM Scientist or People Wing sends 4 turtle emojis for $2. Thank you very much.
Cheers. I do like turtles.
Also, Staryu for $9.99 said, should creation X... Now, this says Thelata, but I am going to go with Oceano, because X is, in fact, Latin, and Thelata is based on the Greek word for sea or ocean. So we're going to go with, should creation X Oceano be true, we should expect to find a big boat in the Middle East. Alas, AIG could not fit on that boat, for their members, which they are a bag of, are too long. Thank you very much, Astari. We'll take a drink. Yeah, I was actually like, hey, wait, what's the ablative form of Okeanos? And I had to look that up today.
Oh. So, first thing, the process Matt just described doesn't cause volcanoes to exist now, right? 2, we still have the heat problem, because if we have plates moving around at race car speeds, that does generate a lot of heat, such that the entire surface of the Earth would still be liquid and molten, right? So there's lots of problems. But now let's talk about the Ice Age. So, I said the Ice Age. Let's talk about how Ice Ages form.
Mm-hmm.
For a true Ice Age, right, which is a long period of like colder temperatures.
We're currently in one of those.
We are. We're technically still in an Ice Age because we have solid ice sheets that exist.
That exist
right?
year round. which is the
that
important.
exists year
Yeah.
round. Yes.
At the height of summer, they don't completely melt away. Therefore, ice age.
Exactly. So once the Greenland ice sheet and the ice sheet melt, then we would be out of ice age. Okay, but so ice ages, we're talking about things that are, again, these happen because of Milankovitch cycles. And so think order of magnitude, 60 to 100,000 years is when, you know, we should see a period of significantly colder temperatures, right? Every 60 to 100,000 years in a record, right? And this is because of mostly it's going to be, ice ages are mostly from eccentricity.
Yes.
Yes. From eccentricity.
So eccentricity, by the way, because that's not a thing most people. So real quick, orbits, right, have an eccentricity value. An eccentricity of 0 means that the orbit is perfectly circular. Now, there are no known objects with an orbital eccentricity of 0, but that's what it would mean. An orbital eccentricity of 1 or higher is actually a parabola, so it's not even an actual orbit, right? So once your orbital eccentricity goes to 1, you are no longer going to come back around to that point. You have escaped orbit, so you're not coming back. Now,
right.
So basically, the orbital eccentricities between that mean that your orbit is actually an oval, and so it has a major axis and a minor axis. The minor axis is the short one, and the long one. And basically, you can think of the ratio between them as being related to the eccentricity. So the narrower that oval is, right, the more eccentricity you have. And so as the Earth gets more eccentricity, that creates ice ages because it loses a lot more heat as it's farther and farther away. And then when it's in a more circular orbit, it has more even heating the entire year round. Interestingly, we're actually farther away in the summer than we are in the winter in the northern hemisphere. Of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, then it's the other way around. So good day.
Yeah. But yeah, so that has to do with like the total amount of air reaches planet Earth averaged over the year.
Yeah.
Right. So think about that. If that goes down, right, because we're in a more elliptical orbit, then we're getting less energy over the course of the year. So overall, we're colder is kind of the best way to think about that, I think. Right. So that's what
drink for
causes
Mothra.
Ice ages. Drink for Mothra. Cheers. I did not hear him, but that's okay.
Please don't misgender Mothra.
Excuse me. I did not hear her.
There you go.
Okay. So, volcanoes can, on shorter time scales, affect global temperatures. Okay. So, the year without a summer is a good example. So volcanoes like erupt, they emit a lot of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is it's very important for two reasons, and it affects global climate for these two reasons. It is shiny, and it gets into the stratosphere. Okay, so shiny is important because that makes it good at reflecting sunlight back. So that's going to temporarily increase global albedo. And so that means we reflect more sunlight back than we did before, right? So shiny things like ice and clouds tend to reflect incoming sunlight, so that energy doesn't, I hit my mic, I'm sorry, that energy doesn't get absorbed by the Earth and kind of incorporated into the Earth atmosphere system. It just gets shot, it's bounced out to space. So when sulfur dioxide gets up into the stratosphere, right, then it's going to increase planetary albedo. We'll have more sunlight reflected, less makes it to Earth, thus we're overall colder. So there's other things that are also very shiny, don't have an effect because they have a low residence time. So residence time is after I put this chemical up in the atmosphere, how long until it comes down, right? So you need to, so like sulfur dioxide has a residence, I think about 5 years. And think of that, never mind. It's something like 2 to 5, I forget exactly. And so like, it gets in the stratosphere and it hangs out for a while. So something like NOx, any nitrogen O2O3, sorry, that's like NO and then X for the bottom number as the chemical signal. And so in atmospheric science, we just call that NOx. Those are also very white. and so shiny, but they dissipate quickly, right? Those are bad for other reasons. They're really bad for humans to breathe them. But like that doesn't have the same global climate effects because they have a much lower residence time. Okay, so moral of the story: volcanoes don't cause ice ages, though they can cause short-term, like on the order of magnitude of a few years, global climate change. Yes. Whereas an ice age is the climate trend. Excellent. Cheers. Yeah. I mean, she has like 7 words now, so probably. She hasn't done it, but she can say
Dapper
7
was
words.
muted because Dapper had to type something real quick. Sorry about that. So I read Vandalia's super chat, which was Maddie has your baby kicked this Matt's button debate yet because I bet she could do it. And also, a TikTok had said, Egi est busra fallorum flatantium fere ferocium sed fiti tesorum, which is basically AIG is a bag of smelly dicks. So, there you go. Fixed it. Sorry, everybody.
Someone says that I specifically am glitching on their end. Is that a thing I'm doing?
You are occasionally cutting out for about like a quarter second or so.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm connected. I'm hardwired to the internet, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure why it is, but for some reason, at least when I connect to you, we do seem to have the occasional audio drop. So, all right.
My bad.
So let's get more Matt in here after I read this next super chat that now the people can hear me, which is from Fade to Grey, checked by the copyright, which is, you always got to be checked by the copyright. You want to submit your book to the copyright so that they can hand it back to you and say, yes, this book is copyrighted. That's vital.
That's how it works.
Little known fact, but I was ordained in Sealand as a high monocle in the Free Association of Dapperitism. There you go. I wonder to what authority that ordination traces back. It's probably not St. Peter.
Probably not.
All right. Here we go.
And they assume it was, 15,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. And that was the end of it.
Not really an assumption, more of a measurement.
Not an assumption.
Yeah, it's a measurement. It's like saying...
Yeah, and also he also said earlier that like our evidence that there was an ice age is from the fossil record, which I feel like that is not real.
I mean, the fossil record adds evidence to the dating of the ice age, but we don't base that dating primarily on the fossil record, no. It's more on things like lake varves, ice cores, geology. I mean, sure, fossils are in there, but like, it's kind of like if I were to measure the drive between like here and Anchorage, it was like, 6,000 kilometers, which is roughly what it is. Because I checked. Anyway, and then Matt's like, okay, but what if it's actually 8 centimeters? And I'm like, I feel like Anchorage, Alaska isn't just within, like grabbing distance. Like it's the same distance between like my hand and my glass here. And he's like, oh yeah, but you're just basing that on your misinterpretation of fossils. I'm like, okay, sure, cool.
Sure. Yeah. Also, wait, he said that it ended, I think he said like 15,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's his estimate of...
That's his estimate.
Now,
that's not...
I'm going to say this, when he says the Ice Age ended, what I think he means is the end of the last glacial maximum, which is what most people mean when they say the end of the Ice Age, right? Because remember, we are still in an Ice Age. The Ice Age hasn't ended. Humans are doing their darndest to end it, but currently...
Yeah, we should not do that.
Yeah, let nature end it on its own. So let's see. Heather Kuhn for $5 with additional information about eccentricity. Eccentricity 1 equals parabola. Eccentricity over 1 equals hyperbola. Eccentricity of less than or equal to 1. Well, it had to be less than. Sorry. Hold on.
Between 1 and less than 1, but greater
Oh,
than
got
0.
it. Yeah, sorry.
Greater than
Yep.
or equal to 0.
I'm used to, yeah, okay. Is an ellipse, with circles being a special case of ellipse. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, that is, in fact, a more detailed and more accurate version of my quick accounting of orbital eccentricity. By the way, if you want to learn orbital mechanics, you could take college courses or go work for NASA, or you could just play Kerbal Space Program. Just do that. It's way less expensive. And my goodness, it will teach you a whole lot about orbital mechanics. A whole lot you never thought you would understand. All right. We're going to hit play.
By the way, the last glacial maximum was like 20,000 years ago.
Yeah, but you know what? We give young Earth creationists a free order of magnitude. So if he had said 200,000, I'd be like, yeah, fine, whatever.
Okay.
And if he'd said 2,000 years ago, I've been like, well, that's a weird take, but sure, why not? Basically, I give them a free order of magnitude because, generally speaking, creationists are off by like 6 to 9 orders of magnitude. So, you know.
Yeah.
Also, Savage, Quetzalcoatlus, third humorous Cobra, says for $5, my apostolic succession traces back to Saint Turtle of Giraffe. It's heresy to refer to him as the other Augustine. Okay. Tiktaalik for 50 Argentinian peso says AIG is what the Joker gave Batman after his conversation with. No, wait, wrong Robin. Forget about it. We'll just take a drink. All right, here we go. If I can find my stupid play button, here it is.
Right, but that's not the case. That's actually much more recent.
He said on the basis of nothing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's beside the point. What we're talking about.
I mean, you're young Earth creationist, Matt. It's at least part of the point. It's in there. It's in the mix.
Yeah.
Is that the actual flood was a real event, and we can find the evidence not just by looking around the world. We can find it in our very own genetics.
By the way, I want to point out this guy is on a nutrition podcast. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
just
Where do we find evidence of the flood? Of a global flood?
Where in the genetics? Is it on like chromosome 3?
Where?
Is it like on the X chromosome? Where is it?
And we can find it looking inside of our DNA. And that's where the war is actually won, because anybody can interpret the evidence looking at geology and paleontology that they want.
No, in fact,
no,
physics.
That's not how science works.
Yeah.
That's not how scholarship
Let's take a big
works.
old... We're going to take a drink for that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Geology and paleontology are both constrained by physics and biology broadly, right? So if I look at a fossil Edmontosaurus, right? It's a big, hulking ornithopod hadrosaur dinosaur, right? From the late Cretaceous. And I'm like, I think this was actually a flying starfish. It's just not an option, right? Like, you just can't... I mean, you can make the claim, but no one is going to take that seriously. It's impossible. There's nothing about it that would indicate that it either flew, and there's even less about it that would indicate that it could be a member of, like, Echinodermata. Like, it's clearly a vertebrate that doesn't fly. Obviously.
Right.
Titillac Rosie for 20,000 Vietnamese dong says, "Ayo, that's my cousin, but with the real tax on." Nice. Vandali 1998 for $10 says, "Speaking of the Ice Age ending, in animated Aladdin movie, Genie says that he's been trapped for 10,000 years. Didn't the last ice age start warming around then? No, it would have started earlier than that. Although, also...
But no, we can blame the genie. It's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Rita Repulsa was also trapped for 10,000 years in her space dumpster. And I want to say that yesterday was the actual 30th anniversary of the first airing of Power Rangers. So as a result, I watched both Day of the Dumpster, the first episode, and then also I watched Once and Always, the 30th anniversary special on Netflix. It was fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Beginning and end right there is kind of sandwich them together. One right after the other, which was a little weird because, yeah. But,
nice.
Yeah. Also, Once and Always had a lot of really great references to, like, the entire 30-year history, and they were worked in pretty subtly, so, like, it all worked out pretty well. Yeah. My favorite bit was when Kat said, "I don't care how dangerous too much pink energy is."
Hooray!
Yes, it was very nice. Anyway, off on a rangent kids media tangent there, but back to this. I forgot where we were, so I'm just going to hit play. Oh, right, paleontology and geology, right. So if you want to say, oh, hey, this is a flood deposit, it's on you if the consensus is that no, it's not, to show that it even could be, right? If you want to say, oh, hey, this limestone was deposited in a flood, great, go get a sedimentation tank and see if you can do it.
Yeah, and to be very clear, even if you can demonstrate that, like, okay, this rock over here was deposited during a flood, right? That does not then imply that it was deposited by a global flood.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look,
Right.
your first step is like, could a flood deposit this? And then your next step is, okay, now that you can say that all of the rocks in question could have been flood deposits, show it was global.
Then you have to demonstrate that that the least bad answer, right? That the best reasoning is that they were all deposited by a single global event. Because we have examples of where scholarship has cited that like a pretty much global event occurred, such as the fallout of the KP extinction, right? And turns out when we go around the world, we find the same iridium layer in the same place in the rock record, right? Everywhere on planet Earth. So in fact, we know what global events look like, right? We know what those look like.
By the way,
if there had been a global flood, there would be evidence of it in the rock record.
It wouldn't even be like a lot of questioning, right? It would be like, yo, yeah, this is definitely a thing.
Yo, yeah. What's up?
Starting for $4.99 says, you're telling me, you're telling me Genie from Aladdin, an actual Islamic mythological spirit, has a better understanding of the age of the earth than young earth creationism. Well, I will say,
yes,
Islam has a less, even if you're as literalist as they come, it's much harder to get a definitive age of the earth out of a literal reading of, say, Islamic scriptures than it is the Bible. So even among the anti-evolutionist Muslims, there's less of a tendency to take a stance on the age of the earth, and so I find that a lot of them tend to either be agnostic or old earthers. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Origami Swami, SPA employees. That was Johnny Young Bosch. So that's Adam, former Black Ranger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers seasons 2 and 3, and also partially he was the Green Ranger in Zeo, and he was the Green Ranger for a little bit of time in Turbo. And that was also Aisha Campbell, the second Yellow Ranger from Season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So, there you go. That's who the SPA employees were. Dustin Carroll, who's been a member for 6 months at the MNL level, says, AIG is a phylactery of phallic focaccia? That's a lot of alliteration. All right. We'll take a drink. All right. So, yeah. Basically, you need to get past the physically impossible stage, because that's currently where we are with the global flood. Global flood, as you believe it, is currently physically impossible. Once you get to the physically possible, then we'll worry about getting you to the point where it's more likely than not. Good luck.
Good luck. Okay, but let's hear about how it's in our DNA, though.
Yeah. Both look at something and see two different things in one picture. But when you're looking at the biological evidence, there's no way that you can interpret it wrong. You can try to, but you can't. You have to come up with what we call rescue devices.
I'm just going to point out there that the very fact that there are people who are interpreting it in myriad ways, including ways that are consistent with a much older universe than even science thinks, means you can interpret it different ways. The difference is that some of those ways correspond to what else we know about the universe. Some of them don't. The ways that do, we generally term science. Yeah.
Something that drives me nuts about, a lot like younger creationism speakers, right, is how little they seem to understand of how science works and is done.
Yeah.
Because, to me, it seems like Raw Matt here thinks science works the way you learn science in elementary school, right? Which is you go to a book and read it, and that's the answer.
Right.
Right? It doesn't, they seem to just, to not understand the process of science and, how you come to new conclusions, and that it's, this investigation of don't know. Right? They think it's were handed down. It's not. That's not how science
Science doesn't
works.
come from a prophet or a guru.
Right, or a book, right?
Yeah.
It's
The book at best reports on the actual experiments and observations of other people, and that's the important thing.
Right. And canon should be changed as new evidence is discovered, changed and updated.
Yeah. It turns out science does not work the same way that any particular person's religion works. Sorry.
Right.
All right. Here we go.
And that's where we can see low genetic diversity in all life on Earth.
I'm going to need a big old citation for that one.
Citation needed.
Yeah, there's a lot of genetic diversity. In fact, there's so much genetic diversity.
Yeah.
I've done the math on this. You can't fit it in arc pairs. And in fact, there's so much diversity in most groups of organisms that creationists think of as being the same kind of organisms that you actually couldn't derive it through mutation in the time they have until those species get to now. So we'll just take a drink for that, because that's a whole bunch of stupid.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm also hydrating, but my drink counter.
Hey, hydration is very important.
It's very important.
All right, here we go.
Now, why would that be the case?
Because I mean, it's just not, but okay.
But it's not.
You could, I mean, look, you might have a great reason why it should be the case. But given that it's not, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Now, Hank says for $6.69, thank you very much, nice. Dollary Do says AIG are a swaggy's tucker bag full of snags and covered in dags. That's one of my favorite Australians. Get a dog off the
Australianisms, maybe?
Yeah. I'm not even going to attempt an Australian accent because I'm bad at it and it would just be insulting. But we'll take a drink. Thank you very much. All right. You know, we haven't had any beaver bucks this time so far. Canadians, help me out here. Send me some beaver bucks.
Everything is very recently went into a bottleneck.
Okay, but we don't have evidence of that, right? We have evidence of a human bottleneck on the order of like hundreds of thousands of years ago. We have an evidence of, say, a cheetah bottleneck a similar amount of time ago, a more severe one. But we don't have evidence of like just a broad bottleneck for everybody, right? Like wolves don't have an evident bottleneck across the entire Canis lupus species, right? There's no like Panthera leo bottleneck in the past. There's one currently because lions are being, dying off as a result of human hunting and encroachment on their habitat. But like we just don't have this evidence of just a animalia wide or even just land animals wide bottleneck. Savage Quetzalcoatl's third humerus cobra for $2, that's US, says AIG is a leathern loci of leg lizards. All right, we'll take a drink.
I like leg lizards. That's a
good one.
I haven't heard that one before.
We'll get a little bit more raw mat in, and then we will take a quick break.
See, they knew that, but they had to invent a worldwide bottleneck for their model because one didn't exist.
No.
Remember, evolution has been occurring for millions.
Raw mat, what worldwide bottleneck has been invented? There just isn't such a thing. You're just imagining a straw man into existence.
Are they talking about Tesla Rangers mentioning the Toba?
I mean, maybe that's what he's talking about. That's a hypothesis for what caused the human genetic bottleneck. It doesn't just apply to life broadly. It's also largely been disconfirmed. Like, it's probably not the Toba incident that caused the bottleneck. But, whatever. I'm not a paleoanthropologist.
Yeah.
Millions of years. Then why is there low genetic diversity?
There isn't.
Something had to happen. So they...
If there were anomalously low genetic diversity across all of, say, animals, or just land animals, if all terrestrial, we'll be very specific, if all terrestrial vertebrates had anomalously low genetic diversity, then yes, that would demand an explanation.
Yeah.
Fortunately for everyone, that's just not how it is. So...
It's not...
Yeah, I'm just going to down this beer here, this last little bit of my beer, after I read this, this membership milestone chat. And then we're going to go on a quick break. I'm going to get myself another beer, and we will be back shortly. So, Jillian Wren, who's been a member for 6 months and is at the ambient level, says, I tried explaining raw mat to my coworkers at Ren Fair, and now they all hate him too. Amazing,
I'm glad.
especially the one who studied human anatomy. Did you tell him how Raw Matt thinks that apes have 2 bones in their lower arm, but that humans only have 1? Because that's my favorite Raw Matt thing about the human body, is that he doesn't know how many bones are in his own upper arm. Which is weird, because he's, like, skeletal enough that he should be able to see both of them. Because, again, he's a malnourished, crazy person who I sincerely think has caused neurological damage to his brain as a result of malnutrition. And here's the reason I don't feel bad about that. He chose it. He didn't have to. If you decide one day to, in addition to being a gigantic asshole, because he is, to also damage your own brain, you get no sympathy from me.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. In the meantime, please enjoy the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind, who, of course, is my co-host for Kent with Bent. We'll be back in just a bit. Hey, welcome back, everybody. So we got a couple super chats to go through right quick, and then we have my quick little commercial area, because I know you probably watched a commercial for someone else, but gotta show my own stuff. So Styx Dragon Karen, that's C-H-R-O, Caron, I don't know. I'm going with Karen for now. Sends a dragon and a heart emoji and says, from Shade Dragon and I. Well, thank you very much, Styx Dragon. I really appreciate that. Asta Creation Ex Oceano, Ryu, nice, for $4.99, says, AIG is a sack of the body part that when furries draw it, Blue Sky's moderation bot cannot recognize it as a schlong. And of course, schlong is sent in with the International Phonetic Alphabet, which I greatly appreciate. I gotta love the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's so great. Here's a drink for that. Thank you very much. Okay, so real quick. Damien McLagan, AIG is a pack of Little Mermaid castle spires. Nice.
Nice.
Okay, so, guys, as I'm sure you got... Oh my goodness. Severin, I'm gonna wait. You have to wait. As I'm sure you guys are either aware or are learning and are not surprised by, this channel is supported primarily with your help. My videos take a long time to make, takes a long time to research them. I basically spend on most work days, I spend somewhere between like 7 to 14 hours working on stuff for the channel. That doesn't count breaks for lunch. It's just straight through. And you guys are the thing that helps keep the channel going. You are the reason that I can do. In the last couple weeks, it's going to end up being 4 videos a week, but it's usually 3. So without your support through things like your super chats, joining the channel memberships, gifting memberships like Savage Quetzalcoatlus Third Humorous Cobra just did, joining the Patreon, things like that, the channel would not continue. So if you want to help out, there are a number of ways that we will get to after we take 5 drinks and read who has been gifted memberships, which includes Styx Dragon, Ruthie, Lady Moonweb, Helen R, and JMCA Does Lifts. So let's take some drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, if you would like to help the channel out, 2 of the best ways are Patreon and the channel memberships. Now, on Patreon, you can get a 12% discount if you go annually. Patreon starts as low as $1 a month. If you are on any level on the Patreon or the channel memberships, which, by the way, start at $1.99 a month, no annual thing, you get early access to what's currently around 4 to 5 months worth of videos that have not gone live on my channel. Maddie, I know you sat and binged a lot of them once, like last month, and it was hours.
I sit and binge a lot. Yeah, there's so many hours. It helps me not lose my mind when I am debugging PhD stuff.
Yeah, so it's it's multiple hours. I think it's going to be somewhere around 10 hours worth of content, I think.
Mm-hmm.
More content comes out each month. There's 4 videos that have already gone up this month. I'm hoping to get another one out before the end of the month, although now that it's the 29th, that seems unlikely, so you never know. That's probably going to be pushed till next month, but it'll be like early next month, right? Like the 4th or 5th next month, probably. Don't hold me to that. That's just my estimate. You can also, on both of them, get your name in the credits. That starts at the $5 tier. I'll put your name in the credits. The $10 tier on Patreon gets you access to some 3D resources that I use or have made. Like the next one I'm going to upload is a procedural cave generator for making cave maps for RPG games. So if you just need a cave, you can download it. You can render out a cave. You can render out a whole new cave. It has literally infinite caves. You can just put in new numbers and it will always generate a new cave infinitely. There's no limit to it. Which, I mean, look, how many people will give you infinite RPG maps if you sign up for $10? Not very many.
How many people will give you infinite caves?
Yeah. Only, I can't say only, but I'm one of the few. At higher tiers, you can get things like I'll say your name in the credits. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Now, if a monthly or an annual subscription isn't your thing, there's a merch store linked in the description. There's a wish list for Amazon linked in the description, so that if you want to, get me a quick book or something, you can help out that way. Or if you want a Dapper Dinosaur themed pillow, or a fleece blanket, or a hoodie, or a mug, or a t-shirt, or a baby onesie. Yeah, check out the merch store. Now, if none of that's right for you, or you're already doing one of those things, or you just can't afford any of them, which is perfectly fine, I do not want your money if you can't afford it, and you still want to help out, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this video and all my videos, and watch videos in a row. Watch a few of my videos in a row. All those things help greatly. So, with that being said, here's more Raw Matt. Because I took a little bit of a break to show my own stuff, but gotta get back to it.
Said, well, after the fact, of course, they found this evidence and then said, well, there must have been a worldwide bottleneck.
Nope, not a thing, but okay.
Nope,
but also,
not a thing.
That's how things normally go in science. First you find evidence of a thing, and then you say, gee, I guess thing happened.
No. Yeah.
Right?
That's like, we found this weird iridium layer, and was like, that's weird. Something weird happened, and it happened everywhere.
Yeah.
How would iridium get here?
Exactly.
Right? Maybe an asteroid. I bet if we looked for a crater, we might find one.
Yes, instead, what Raw Matt would like to have happen is for science to just start out with answers, and then for it to look for evidence to find confirmation for those answers. Because, let's be honest, that's how Raw Matt operates. Raw Matt has answers that he has already concluded, well, this is just how it is. And then he looks for evidence to support it. And he rejects evidence that doesn't support it, because he's already right.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, well, that's just a rescuing device. Because
No, that's literally what science... Oh my god, I'm taking a drink.
Yeah, that's not...
The basics
So,
of
like,
science...
rescue device is, I think, Raw Matt's favorite word.
Oh, yeah,
right?
probably.
That's his... He loves to say rescuing device.
I was going to say we should drink for it, but then we just die.
We would be dead.
We would just die.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, the basic idea of how science operates at a bird's eye view is not a rescuing device. That's just science. Raw Matt here is just saying, I don't like science. That's it. That's all this comes down to. So, yeah.
that's what our model says. So they keep borrowing from us and renaming it and making it as evidence for them.
I mean, look, if they actually came up with conclusions and then sought evidence to fit them, then that would in fact be borrowing evidence or borrowing things from you, which is to say borrowing a pseudoscientific method for finding, conclusions.
Right. And that's like I've never, this has been driving me nuts. I've been binging a lot of your stuff, Dapper, which is probably, honestly, I've probably consumed too much YEC content recently. I might need to, I think I need to go back to rewatching the X-Files for a little while.
Something that makes more sense.
Yeah, something that makes way more sense.
Like Leech Boy.
But what's driving me absolutely insane, and Raw Matt's doing it here, is well, we say this, right? Without giving any, he's not defining anything, he's not giving any evidence, he's not, making any predictions, he's not, oh yes, the evolutionists are just borrowing from creationist ideas. Oh, I was tell me one.
Yeah,
and with evidence, with explain where is the evidence of this worldwide bottleneck, right? Show that to me, right? And then tell me how you predicted it.
Yeah. By the way, we are well over halfway to getting the next special Avatar Dapper. Now, we currently have one that is owed, right? So the one that's owed is going to end up being a Cyber Dapper, and that's going to be on the next video that I just did the script for. But, yeah, we get, I think it's, we're over halfway. So, let's see. DM Scientist or People Wing says, oh my F and G. We'll go with that. And then sends 5 projector emojis, because yes, Raw Matt is projecting really, really hard.
Oh my gosh.
I actually went to the trouble of making a projector emoji, and then I realized that, oh no, there's already a stock one. I don't need one for myself.
Oh no!
Yeah. I actually rendered out a 3D model of a projector that I made just for the emoji, and then turned it into sort of a pixel art version of that, and then upload it. No, already there. Didn't need it.
Yeah.
Whoops. All right, here we go.
When it's not evidence for them, it's evidence against them. They didn't predict that. They predicted the exact opposite to be true.
Which is what we found. You're right. Hey.
Which is what we found.
Raw Matt, you're right. They did predict the opposite of that, and then they found the opposite of that. Good job.
Technically correct.
Mm-hmm. The best kind of correct. Thank you, Central Bureaucracy.
So
that's interesting.
That just gave me the same energy as Jeranism with his failed flat Earth experiment, just saying, interesting, at the end of the flat Earth documentary Behind the Curve.
Amazing.
Now, to be fair to him, he is right that they did somewhat deceptively edit him, and that is not simply how that experiment ended, and the experiment failed for more reasons than just the curvature of the Earth. So, there were other confounding variables that, some of which Jeranism acknowledges. So I don't want to just pretend that stuff isn't the case and that Jeranism was accurately portrayed by the documentary, because he wasn't. So
Yeah.
Jeranism, on the very rare off chance that you watch this, I get it, man, and you're not completely wrong when you say that they basically lied about you in that. Anyway.
Yeah, it was funny listening to Bill Nye's arguments, and he was so aggressive.
Oh, right, because we were talking about the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate way earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Ken kept bringing up a belief in God, and he kept pointing to this little girl, and he was like, "Are you telling her she's just an animal?"
I mean, I wouldn't put the just in there because there's nothing wrong with being an animal, but I guess all little girls are animals because they are multicellular organisms that lack a cell wall. They use internal digestion, and they're held together by collagen. They have nuclei. These are all things that are characteristic of animals in varying degrees.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
yeah.
whether or not you include the just feels like a philosophical or theological discussion, not a scientific one.
Right, yeah. Science isn't here to tell you what's good or bad or
exactly
how you should feel.
I really like... Yeah, no. Science isn't here to talk about that, right? Like, we do as a society, or as a species, seem to recognize that there's a difference between us and other animals, right? Like, we don't hold a dog accountable in the same way as human, right? But, that doesn't make us any less an animal. It doesn't make us less a mammal or an ape, right? Again, you're philosophically, what does it mean to be human? Is
Alex? Alex Marco pointed out that's rich coming from the guy who looked like a chimp 20 years ago. Yeah, if you look at those 20 years ago Ken Ham pictures, he just looks like a chimpanzee. It's kind of hilarious.
He does. He looks like he walked off the set of Planet of the Apes.
All right. Now, Love True Music has sent me some Tell Me Why... is that Backstreet Boys lyrics?
Yeah, I'm going to sing it, okay?
You do that, so I don't have to. But that's for $10. And Maddie, here you go. Take it away.
Tell me why he ain't nothing but an orbit. Tell me why ain't nothing but a story. Tell me why I never want to hear say rescuing device.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And also, thank you for relieving me from the necessity to sing that. Because while I have sung, I do have a history of singing. I usually have to prep for that. People know the story that I was in a church choir for a while. Yeah, we had practice. We didn't just go in cold to sing Backstreet Boys. Also, we never sang Backstreet Boys, believe it or not. Yeah. Yeah. This church...
I get to be...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, continue.
I was going to say, if this church sang a song, there was a very good chance that it was older than 500 years old.
I say this, in a little over a week, I get to be in a music show at our local theater.
Oh,
I love
nice.
doing musical improv.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
And he's like, I wouldn't use the word just, but yeah, she's a beautiful animal. It's like,
yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you don't like the thing that you are, but that doesn't...
That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, right? We could tell this little girl she's just a human. Well, again, I wouldn't use just, but yeah. We can tell this little girl that she's just a girl. Again, I wouldn't use just, but yes. I don't...
Yeah.
What do you want from me? Yes, I will confirm things that are true with this little girl. I just won't do it insultingly for no reason.
Yeah.
Whoa, this is kind of a part of what's wrong with our world to me.
I'm going to just take a drink for a part of what's wrong with the world is that we acknowledge things that are true. Yeah, I don't think that's something that's wrong with the world. I think that's a good thing, that we should honor the world, or we should honor what's true about the world. Suspicious that Dapper felt the need to deny singing Backstreet Boys at church. Look, I'm not going to give you the name of the church, because that's fairly identifying personal information. But it's just true. We didn't sing Backstreet Boys. Actually, knowing the choir director, he probably would not have been up for Backstreet Boys because he wasn't actually a member of the church. He was actually directing the choir as like for credit from a local college where he was going to get his music degree. And one of the things they were like is you got to direct some kind of musical group. He was like, what about a church choir? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So he wasn't actually a member of the church. He didn't go up for communion or anything. But
okay.
I got to know him a bit, and Backstreet Boys were definitely not on his list of preferred musician or musical outfits.
That's fair. One of my favorite things about getting into Episcopalianism is that even little churches, right, have a music director, and that person on staff, and that person has a and
I know what I'm doing here.
It's kind of great. It's not just the guy that picked up his guitar one day, I'm sort of used to.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you're the worship leader now. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's who here owns a guitar? You, great. You're the worship leader now. You get to do that. We will not be paid.
No.
That's how this usually goes.
But you got to come here after hours for practice.
Yeah.
Or maybe just say that you did, and the music will be terrible. That's fine too. Okay, so Asta Creation Ex Oceano Ryu for $4.99 says, this just in, apparently we need to lie to our children because God. Isn't that argument one of the commandments? Yeah, I think actually it's more like the opposite of that, I think, is the commandment. Yeah, don't lie is in there. I mean, it's couched in more legalistic terms, don't bear false witness, which is, I guess, more don't commit perjury. But still, I think the general idea is hey, lying in general, not good. Telling the truth...
Lying in general, bad.
Yeah, telling the truth in general, good. Maybe there are some exceptions, like Rahab, right? Lied to the guards at the city guards.
Yeah.
Generally considered a good thing in the Bible. Okay, there's some exceptions. But the broad stroke of it is lying bad. Truth good. Savage, Quetzalcoatl's third humorous Cobra for $5 US says, I will not have Animalia slandered by a man that used to think he was an air plant. Yes. Yeah. For Raw Matt, who seems to think that photosynthesis or just drawing in spiritual energy from the air works. Yeah. Not the kind of guy to be oh, they're just denying reality. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that just blows my mind about Raw Matt, right? Because there are some weird sects of Christianity that get real vegetarian, I think that if you take Saint Francis real literally and real intensely, right, then you get to maybe you don't get to vegetarianism through him, but you could see that I know there are weird Christian hippies who are we're vegetarian or even vegan because we don't want to cause harm to anyone or anything. I could even see you going fruitarian as this extreme version of I don't want anything to die so that I can live.
Yeah, I only eat the parts of the plant that the plant itself would prefer that I eat.
Exactly. And so I could see you getting there out of this kind of extreme pacifism, but the people I tend to know who are like that are kind,
Right.
And Rob Mattson asked.
Let's remember, one of his responses to Dan Stern Cardinal, Dr. Dan of Creation Myths, pointing out a factual error that Raw Matt had made, was saying, I could break you in half on a good day. Just random threats of violence just getting tossed out there.
Yeah, random threats of violence. And so I don't he's really theologically inconsistent. And gosh darn it, if you're gonna hold an extreme position, hold it honestly.
Yeah, be consistent. But the thing is, so the thing about that is, Raw Matt isn't a vegan out of ethical concern. He's a vegan because he thinks that it will be healthier for him, and that he will, based on his books, he actually seems to think that he will live forever and not age. Now, he's currently aging, so, like, you know.
How's that going for you there, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I don't get it. I don't get him. I don't get it. Except, like, the problem is...
You do, yeah.
He's an arrogant POS, right? And thinks he, like, has all this special knowledge that other people have, right? He's the real enlightened one, and why isn't everyone bowing down? Right? It's just that, like, I know this guy, I've met this guy 10,000 times, you know, and it's not unique, it's not interesting, it's just boring and mean.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Now, Olivia Williams said that it won't let her super chat for some reason, which is weird. But it wanted to say, "Tik vad jat Jesus tiklij dak bach de vihar," which means Jesus said to them, I hope when your heart fires, or I hope when someone fires into your heart. I'm not sure that makes a whole lot of sense. Because a tiklij dak means in your heart or to your heart, like directionally, and bachdit means when he, she, or it fires. And then et vechar means I hope that whole thing. So I hope someone fires to your heart? Or hope when someone fires to your heart? I'm not sure. What were you going for? Because that might help. Because, yeah. Was that machine translated? Be honest. It's okay if it was. Just be honest about it. I mean, it's not entirely okay if it was, because never machine translate Klingon. It's terrible. Anyway. Here we go.
Just looking at human beings as just animals. And that is kind of like the crux of the problem, right? Of people believing in, as I'm sure we'll talk about, that everything came from nothing, which is kind of like a mystical, magical belief system.
I mean, so believing in evolution is not synonymous with believing everything came from nothing, but also, you guys probably believe in creation ex nihilo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also, like, again, like, so we did a bait and switch here, right? We were talking about science, and now we're talking about beliefs, right? These are different things. Tesla Ranger's cracking me up. It says Jesus was too pacifistic for the Klingons, right? Apparently, for a lot of Christian churches.
Yeah, like, I mentioned it on my show on Saturday, but, like, I don't remember who it was, right? But a bunch of channels covered it, right? There was a Christian, a fairly prominent Christian pastor who was like, yeah, so I'm having congregants complaining that when I talk about Jesus and just read from the gospel, that, like, the guy I'm talking about is too weak and we can't have that. And, like, his response is like, yep, I'm just literally reading the gospel. And it's like, nope, not good enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same kind of people who like to think that, like, Trump is the, the parousia, the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
Let's see. Asta Creation X Okeano Ryu says, actually, they believe in my username.
That's
so they
true.
Probably,
if we're taking the Bible literally, we
would believe in that. But they don't, because they're very selective about which parts of the Bible they take literally. Because what they're actually doing is imposing a theological tradition that is extra-biblical onto their reading of the Bible, and thereby coming away with an inconsistent hermeneutic. Weird, right? Yeah. And then pretending that that's just how you read the Bible. Strawberry Artery Official Bootleg Edition for $5 says, Ken Ham is just a creationist with a big boat who just runs AIG, who are just a bagel of bagels. We'll take a drink. All right, here we go.
Right, like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the Big Bang Theory has virtually nothing to do with biological evolution or the origin of life, right? All that the origin of life needs is that there be the chemicals around that could have created life in the right way. Now, we don't know everything about what those would be, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. And all evolution requires is that life exist. Mm-hmm. That's it. If life exists, evolution occurs. It doesn't matter how the universe got here. It doesn't matter who created the universe or if no one created the universe. It doesn't matter if it came out of nothing or if it came out of magical transmutation of water. Doesn't matter. If life exists, it will evolve. Period. So, all right, here we go. Oh, and real quick, Savage Quetzalcoatl's third humorous Cobra says, I believe that was Russell Moore, former head of the Southern Baptist Convention and currently in charge of Christianity Today. That does sound right. Thank you.
Yeah, and it goes even deeper as well. It's not our perception on other people. That's also bad from an evolutionary standpoint. That's what Darwin used, to
What?
separate races. That's what Hitler used. He used the word evolution 180 times. And
there we
We
go.
got a Godwin!
Drink for the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party.
I finished my drink on that, and I'm going to switch here.
All right. Pelagic coming from the ground like spaghetti tunicate says, Klingon, auto-translating to Klingon is terrible. How close was that? I mean, it says always Kronos Klingons. So really, really far. So Rech is a adverbial word that means always or forever or every time. Hotnosh is just the Klingon homeworld, and Klingon means Klingons. So, always Klingons belonging to the homeworld, I guess. It's not a sentence. It's not even really a phrase.
Oh, no, never mind. Sorry. That's because is that the Strange New Worlds they brought up from the Klingon Wars? There was like a Klingon battle cry that in English is like always Klingon or remain Klingon.
Oh, yeah, it was Klingon Mach Tachjaj, which literally translates to we are Klingon, may it continue. Or may that we are Klingon continue. And it's not even strictly grammatical. Should probably be like Klingon Mach Net Tachjaj or something. But like you can say, they left out the extra pronoun for the sake of like brevity. Okay. And like it was just pointing out what a weird translation that is. Because it should probably just be like it's just a weird thing to say, actually, in Klingon. Like, it doesn't translate very well into a catchy battle phrase, whereas it kind of does in English.
Yeah.
And
well, they brought that up in the Strange New Worlds episode.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's clunky in Klingon, but easy in English. Like to make it scarier for the like English-speaking people who hear it.
Yeah, that was what was that? Ortegas who said that?
Yeah, that was Ortegas. Yeah.
Which. I liked that scene. I liked that whole episode. Anyway, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is good. Episode. Go watch it. It's way better than Discovery, which is the spin-off. It's a show it's a spin-off of, which is weird to me. So,
yeah, Strange New Worlds is great.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like there was another Klingon question, but if there was, let me know, because I missed it.
His own book. He used it to separate races and to cause division. But the worst part...
Darwin, the abolitionist, was causing extra racism. My guy. I'm just going to take a drink.
My guy.
Now, would Darwin be unacceptably racist if he were alive today with the same attitudes that he had then? Yes.
Yes.
Was Darwin a cause of extra racism? No. If anything, he was a cause of less racism.
Right.
So we have to some degree judge people from the past by the time they were living.
He was... Yeah, and that's like Darwin was advocating for moving things in the
right. Yeah, he was a progressive force surrounding race.
Yes.
We've since gone past where he was hoping to get to.
Exactly. So, what would Darwin's opinions be if he was born and raised with today's kind of cultural? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, based on the fact that he was progressive for the time, maybe he'd still be progressive.
Right. For the time.
Yeah. Maybe, when marriage equality was a big push in the United States, maybe he'd be right there pushing for it along with everybody else. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So DM Scientists Are People Winning says, why do universal traders only sometimes work on Klingon? That's actually a really great question in terms of like the lore. And what I like to think is that there's some way in which it picks up on intent. And in some cases... Klingons intend to be heard in Klingon and don't actually intend for their utterance to be literally understood and instead intend it to be in Klingon for effect, for like, say, emotional purposes or something like that. Or maybe also sometimes we're actually hearing not what the universal translator is saying because maybe it's a little bit off or there isn't one handy. But ultimately, it comes down to Klingons speak Klingons when it's an artistic choice to have them speak Klingon, and none of the writers care about the technical explanation or the universal translator.
Don't need it. It works. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's the same thing with Romulan in Star Trek Picard, right? First,
Yeah.
I can't say about the second season because I didn't even finish the first season. But the first season of Picard has Romulan dialogue. And why is that not translated? I don't know. It just isn't. It's just how it is. Yep. Don't try to bring too much logic to the universal translator. In the first place, they're just a plot device that explains away why you can talk to aliens like at all.
Right. And just listen, it's a better plot device than Stargate, which is, look, everybody just speaks English, it's fine, don't worry.
Even though them not speaking English was a major plot point in the movie that this series is a spin-off of. They brought a linguist for a reason.
Right. And sometimes we want to do a story where not knowing the language is an historic plot point, right? But most of the time we don't. We're not going to explain how that happened.
Nope, just deal with it.
Just deal with it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, look, it's a sci-fi show written by people who aren't linguists. So, all right, here we go.
Part about it is what it does to the individual and the person's mind.
Argument from consequence. Stupid.
Yep. We'll take a drink. Argument from consequences is a logical fallacy. It's not a good argument.
And let's be clear, right? Because again, we're talking about philosophy now, not science, right? They're jumping between them.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate, right? Because all science can do is tell you if like is describe the physical world and how it works, right? And that's it, right? Yeah. And by why I mean like because gravity works like this, the planet's orbits are like this, not like. But why is the gravitational constant this number? Because if you keep going down that, you're going to get to, because if it was different, then the universe would just be different, right? And so science has nothing to say about the consequences of what is true. That is the job of philosophers and folks, right? And so like you can't argument from consequences, therefore gravity doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not how that works.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, argument from consequences comes down to things like, oh, we can't believe that country X is a threat to national security because then people might start panicking. Well, right. Okay, they might, but that doesn't actually make that country not a threat. Like that's not how that works.
Yeah.
It's a threat or not, regardless of how people would feel about it. Roasting a killer
right.
for...
Or for a more recent example, right, we can't shut down schools during a global panorama
Nice.
Because that's going to affect kids' education, right? Like, hear you, but we would like that, but being not alive would also affect their education.
Yes, it would. Yeah. Roasting a Killer for $4.99.
So that's not a good argument.
Says, let's not forget Piltdown Man was a hoax explicitly designed to say white people didn't ultimately descend from Africans. Actually, so we don't actually know the exact reasons for the hoax. It could have been to support the multi-regional hypothesis. It could have also been to support the idea of a single origin for the human species, but that it was from Britain. So it's not clear if it was to support multi-regionalism, to say that white people originated, or even just British people originated locally, or if it was to suggest that actually the cradle of all of humankind was actually in Great Britain. So it's a little, because ultimately we don't know who did the hoax, and even if we identified any of the current leading suspects, we don't know exactly why they did it. Olivia Williams, who did get the super chat button to work for $2.79 beaver bucks, there it is, says Mothra offering a drink. We'll take a drink. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I need to cool down.
Strawberry Artificial Boot. Yeah, I got it right. Strawberry Artificial Bootleg Edition for $5 says, Philosophers and Folks, the name of a new haberdashery. and folks with a PH. Yeah, I get a hat there.
I love it.
I'd get a hat at Philosophers and
Yeah,
Folks.
I would so get a hat there.
All right.
Atheists have a tendency to all believe one thing, right? They all believe in evolution.
Actually, no, not all atheists believe in evolution. Famously, Fred Hoyle was an atheist who did not believe in evolution. Now, I will grant you, most atheists not having a pre-existing religious bias against science tend to then be like, yeah, okay, I guess science is right. But that's not all of them.
Also, fun fact, most people of all religions, in fact, believe in evolution.
True. That is very true. Yep. Should not forget about that.
Yeah.
All right.
All of them. So now the thing about creationists is we can believe in evolution and creation.
I actually agree with Matt, as long as by creationist you mean the broad sense that a deity is responsible for the creation of the universe. Those are not incompatible ideas. Yes, you can be a theistic evolutionist, and if you take a broad view of what creationism is, that counts. So I'm going to be generous and take a drink, even though I know that in modern usage, the term creationism almost always means anti-evolutionism. Doesn't have to, and it has not always.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's one of the reasons why theistic evolutionists often will try to refer to themselves as evolutionary creationists. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just a confusing term.
Yeah.
But they try it, and that's because they don't want to be removed from the group of people who think that a deity is responsible for the creation of the universe, because they do.
Yeah. Well, because it's like most Christians are gonna believe the Nicene Creed. You know, that's a pretty good little metric.
A lot
for
of
your
Christians would
individual
say if you
beliefs.
don't, then you don't even count as being in the club.
Yeah, I'm a little flexible on that. I hold that stance for organizations, right? But like in the Nicene Creed, right? It just says that we believe in these things. We believe in God, the Maker of heaven, right? And that's it.
Yep. Doesn't say how, when. Yeah. In fact,
so under the strictest, you have to believe the Nicene Creed to call yourself a Christian kind of world, that's it. No YEC required.
Yep. Turns out that the Nicene Creed definitely is open theistic evolution.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yep. All right, but wait, are we talking Nicene or Nicene Constantinopolitan? Or Constantinopolitan, there we go. That's the right word.
I don't know which is the one that's in the Book of Common Prayer.
That would be the Nicene Constantinopolitan. It's Constantinopolitan, there we go.
Then that's the one.
Or at least that was the one that's in my Book of Common Prayer. Has there been a recent revision that I don't know about in the last 15 years?
No.
Okay.
The last revision I think was in the 80s.
Then no, it's the nice.
Yeah, or Apostles' Creed, also acceptable.
Yeah. Basically, the Nicene Creed that was actually promulgated at the First Council of Nicaea was shorter, and then later councils added to the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed. Yeah, so the one that most churches actually recite is the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed.
Okay, there you go. Or there was the church I went to when I lived in South Carolina.
Sorry, you cut out there.
The church I went to in South Carolina, we always sang the Nicene Creed, and I loved it.
Okay.
But anywho.
All right, here we go. Enough about weird creedal statements. Well, I guess they're not weird. There's nothing weird about having a creedal
we got our church history section. We got our
we do.
We got that up front this time.
Yeah, we you know what? Look, I ended up helping basically teach my Christian history class in college. It's a thing. I'm a nerd. What are you going to do about it?
Christians can say, well, I guess maybe God used evolution, right? They don't understand the subject well enough. So they just say...
Or they understand it too well, Matt. Also a possibility. Just going to take a drink for any Christian who accepts evolution just doesn't understand it well enough. From the guy who can't get a single thing right about evolution.
From the guy who thinks he doesn't need to eat.
Okay, thought he didn't need to eat, to be fair. He is no longer a breatharian. He now thinks that all he needs is one fruit. And also, Istanbul, not Constantinople, says Icarus. It was Constantinople at the time. Actually, the change to Istanbul is less than a century old. So,
no, it's Istanbul.
At least I think it's less than a century. It's definitely not 2 centuries.
That's nobody's business but Turks.
By the way, the use of that song in the Umbrella Academy was just perfect.
That was really good.
well, maybe God just used evolution. I guess that's okay. But see, they still have an understanding that God could have done it.
Yeah, that's called theism, generally speaking. Now, Goop23 for $5 says, Sir, you have been in a coma for 93 years. Oh boy, I can't wait to go back to Constantinople. Yes. Morgan Poirier, who's been a member for 4 months, says, another great stream. Thanks for entertaining my turtle and me. Turtle, Mothra, and Godzilla.
Aw.
From Morgan Poirier. Let's take a
Cheers.
drink. Thank you very much.
Morgan Poirier, say hi to your turtle for me.
Yes, please do. Turtles are great.
Yeah.
The Gay Bee says, at Dapper Dinosaur, it's definitely because of Ataturk. Yeah, Ataturk is a big part of that. He wanted to get to some, like, hypothetically pure Turkish culture, which has never existed, which is why he changed the spelling system from a modified version of the from a modified version of the Arabic alphabet to a modified version of the Latin alphabet. It's why he just deleted basically all the non-Turkish origin words from the dictionary, which greatly reduced the ability of Turkish speakers to easily express themselves. He also changed a number of older names like Constantinople to Turkish words. There are things I like about Ataturk. There are things I dislike. One of the things I like is his removal of Islam from its official stance in like the government as a part of governmental officialdom. One of the things I dislike about Ataturk are his stupid linguistic reforms. And DM Scientists Are People Wing for $2 sends 5 more turtle emojis. Thank you very much.
Hi, turtles.
All right, here we go.
And they still have a higher mindset that they were created for a purpose. Evolution takes that away. So atheists have a tendency to...
How does evolution take away your sense of purpose given from God if you still believe in God?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, look, okay, if you're a theist in chat who gets some purpose from your belief about what God has in store for you or wants your purpose to be, let me know in chat if that would be interfered with by believing that, say, humans have a common ancestor with squirrels. Please let me know, because I can't imagine how, right? Like, I think that, say, your average dog doing work herding sheep has a purpose. It's to herd sheep for a shepherd.
Yeah.
I also think that dog shares a common ancestor with a banana tree. I don't see why those are incompatible beliefs. Now, granted, their purpose in herding sheep is from a human, not from God. But I think there's an analogy in there in that humans, specifically bred dogs from wolves to do certain tasks. And you could make the argument that God guided the evolution of humans in order to do the things that he had purposed for them. Like, I don't see how that's not compatible with Christianity or just a broad theism in which God cares about people. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll hit play.
I don't get it either.
We'll see what else we have. Actually, you know what? That was dumb enough. I'm going to take a drink for it. And then pour another beer.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Listen,
because I am out.
Oof.
I had to find my... I picked up the bottle opener. I'm like, wait, which end is which? Because I'm using not just one of those, like, D-ring bottle openers. This is, like, it's a different shape. So, not that that's a great excuse. It's mostly just the beer that's causing me to have trouble using the bottle opener for the beer. But that's okay.
I have a bottle opener that is the original Enterprise, which is
nice.
The NCC 1701. Yeah.
The first bottle opener I owned after getting to my 21st birthday, I got from a Navy exchange store because it was on the way home. Because my 21st birthday was on a day that I was switching shifts and I had about 6 hours between shifts.
Ooh.
So I got the only bottle opener they had and a 6-pack of beer. And the bottle opener I had played Anchors Away every time it touched the bottle cap. So I got home, I opened up the battery pack, and I broke the circuit board. Right? Then I put it back together, and I had some beers while I watched Star Wars on a TV on the floor in a lawn chair that was also on the floor. And then I went to bed on my mattress on the floor because I was in training and I had an unfurnished apartment. And so I bought a mattress, a chair, and a TV.
Yep.
Roasting a Keller for $1.99.
That's about right.
Roasting a Keller for $1.99 says pics or it didn't happen. I can't imagine I still have pics of that. I mean, this was before I even owned a phone with a camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So here we go.
Lead the world in depression, medication intake, suicide, and school shootings.
Well, there goes the monetization. So if you guys wanted to help me get any money from this, please super chat, because that's almost certainly going to demonetize it. But also,
citation.
Yeah, that's the citation needed area right there. We're going to take a drink for this because there's just no evidence. I've looked into these things. There's just no evidence for it.
Let's also be clear. So, like, let's take him at his word, right? Which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Find that this is not a true statement. But if it was, right? If it was, specifically with the like depression and like medication for mental health, right? Like the other interpretation of that data point, if it were real, is that religious groups may de-incentivize its members or may discourage its members from seeking mental health help from professionals.
Yeah.
Right. Like that there's some nuance there, because I definitely okay, the one time my youth group, I was 14, and the normal like summer youth conference that they would go to, like their prices were too high that year, and so we were going to go to a different place. And turns out that was a bit of a front for a cult.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the time I accidentally went to our camp that was trying to recruit me into a cult, that group was really, really, really anti, like, don't take meds for mental health.
Yeah, Scientology
which is
too.
Silly. Ooh, yeah, that's very silly.
Yeah.
Take your meds, friends. Drink water.
Yeah, Goop23 for $2 says, takes my meds even harder because of him. Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Goop23.
Swallow that pill with gusto.
With gusto. Yeah. Because, like, sometimes my brain doesn't make enough serotonin.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to all of us. And it happens to some people at a pathological level. And it's okay to fix that chemically.
Exactly. Turns out my brain actually really more up. I think.
Yeah.
All
right.
I don't know.
We're gonna hit play. We're almost at the end of the show, so we don't have a whole lot more to go. Also, you might be hearing doggo noises in the background. There are doggos.
There's doggos.
In fact, one who was recently he had a couple of organs removed from the posterior end of his body, if you will. So he's currently got a big old cone, and he's not used. He'll never be used to the cone. I mean, it's coming off in like a week or so. So, yeah.
Now, there's a reason for that. It's because it's destructive mindset to have, right? If you believe you're nothing and
which is not something that is entailed by atheism. So we're just going to take a drink. Atheists don't have to believe they're nothing.
And again, we're getting to the argument from consequence.
Yeah. If acceptance of evolution had like a 100% chance of making you have like, oh, thanks for the zoomies, doggo. Had a 100% chance of giving you like clinical depression, that wouldn't make evolution false.
It wouldn't.
Yeah, that's just how it would work.
Yeah.
Everybody's just an animal and you're just an animal. Life has no purpose. Well, it doesn't really matter. So if I'm offended.
Okay. We're going to read a couple super chats and we're going to talk about things that matter.
Yeah.
Savage Quetzalcoatlus, Third Humorous Cobra for $5 says, AIG is a bag of phalli, but Uncooked Matthew is a bag of Annie. Not sure why I use different vowel qualities for the eyes there, but that's okay. And then it says a bunch of AIG is a bag of dicks emojis, so we'll take a drink for that. Vince O'Connor says, boo demonetization for $19.99 US. Thank you very much. And Rosanna Keller for also $19.99 US says, it's interesting how a common disinformation tactic is to preemptively attack a field that could debunk the disinformation or prevent the end goal. Scientology with psychology, flat earthers, flurfers with gravity. Yeah, basically creationists with most of biology. So let's talk about like what's important and goals and having meaning in life.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Meaning is something you have to choose for yourself, even if what you choose is to get the meaning that you believe comes from a God. So if you believe there's a God out there who has a purpose for your life, you get to say whether or not that's important to you. You don't have to. You can opt to not do that. Now, misotheists are a group of people who would do that. These are people who believe that their God exists, and they hate the guy. And that's a position that some people take. Not a huge number of people, but it is a position that people take.
Well,
and you can therefore
it's-
not take whatever purpose that deity has for you. So, whether you believe in God or not, to find purpose to your life, you have to figure that out. Now, I'm not going to say it's not easier if you believe in a God who has a purpose for humans, right? That does make it easier because you have a default to fall back on. Fair enough.
Mhm.
But it does not obviate the need for you to actively choose what your purpose is. So if you want your purpose...
I-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I have to say, like, from my personal experience, right, in like evangelical youth group land, right, when I was a teen, everyone in my little social group was really, really, really concerned about figuring out what God's plan for their life was,
Mhm.
right? I need to know what God's plan for my life is, and that I need to do that, and I need to do it really well, right? Because he has a specific calling just for me, and if I don't do it, right, then I'm doing something wrong. And I remember that causing a great deal of like anxiety and weird pressure, right? And like made me question things like, should I really go study like math at MIT, right?
Mhm.
Because what if that's not what God's calling me to do? What if he's calling me to do something else, right? That would involve not getting an,
Yeah.
And I remember having a little talk with myself that was, one, most people, even in the Bible, are not Moses, right? Most people in the Bible aren't people for whom God had a specific plan for. Most people are just there to live their life, right? And second, that like I'm pretty sure God is more with how I do XYZ, right? I think God is more concerned that I end up in ethical science than whether or not I am a scientist, right? And so like just this Rob, Matt's coming from this position that the belief that God has a plan in your life, right, brings you peace, right, and not anxiety. And I'm like, and that's not true to my experience. Goop Dude 3, I'm glad we can bond over our
shared religious
right.
trauma.
Yeah, you're cool, dude. And so like all of this like finding meaning and purpose, those are good questions for every human to ask. And if you happen to be religious, right, you're probably going to ask that question within the lens of your religion,
But you're still gonna
right?
ask
Because
it.
that shapes. Yeah, but you're still going to ask it,
Yeah.
right? And like again, so like for me, why does my religion and my beliefs, why does that matter for like me being like in my chosen profession or like the path that I'm on? Again, it makes me try to be like kind and ethical and generally not a dick, right?
Good.
Like,
yeah, it's a plus.
And those are the things that I take away from that, like when I'm applying that like religious lens to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And so I got a couple things. One is we definitely hit the special avatar number. So what that means is I'm going to put...
Good job,
Yeah, I'm going to put
team.
on a new poll. Now, we've had Cyber Dapper twice in a row, so he's not going to be in the next poll. The next poll is just going to be between Feather Dapper and Mecha Dapper. So...
Mecha Dapper, Mecha Dapper, Mecha Dapper.
Look, based on the previous two polls, that's the way I expected to go, but it still has to go up for a poll. Now, also, Rosana Keller for $19.99 says, then you've got all these organic fruit/vegetable drinks normalizing a life of extreme littleness by telling me separation is natural. Nice. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a little bit more raw mat in, then we're going to close it up, and there you go. So, here we go.
Who cares if they die? Morality doesn't exist.
I have never met
Whoa!
atheists who thought that morality didn't exist. They just thought it was a human construct. And when you say a human construct, I'm going to remind you, English. the language this channel is in primarily is a human construct. It exists. I'm taking a drink for that. My goodness.
Yeah.
Borgenpor asks if we can do turtle and dapper. I don't have a turtle avatar ready, so tell you what, if you want to commission me to make a turtle avatar so that I can include it, let me know, and we can discuss how much that is worth to both you and me, and if we can come to an agreement, then I can make a special turtle avatar. But for $20, Strawberry Artificial Bootleg Edition says, your brain is not an immaterial bubble of cosmic energy. It's just as much a part of your body as any other organ. Correct. It can get sick. It can be treated and cared for like any other organ. Please stop this, raw mat. Yeah. Now, I will say, your liver is probably not going to change too much on the basis of whether or not you believe that the universe is a cold, dark, uncaring place that has no purpose for you. Your brain might, but that does not change the fact that your brain is indeed an organ. It can go chemically wrong or physically wrong, and those things need to be treated by physical or chemical interventions. And ultimately, chemistry is just physics on a small scale, so they both end up being physical interventions. But y'all know what I mean. So yeah. Your brain can need surgery, it can need drugs, it can need anything else that any other organ might need.
Yeah, your brain's just special because your brain can change by talking.
Yeah. Also, your brain is the most important organ in your body, but only according to your brain. So,
yeah,
you know?
So that's like brain conspiracy, man.
Yeah. I mean, did the brain ask the gallbladder how it felt? No, it didn't.
It just orders it around.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just finished watching season 2 of Good Omens, and as a giant both Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett nerd, like, I actually really enjoyed Good Omens season 2. But I'm reminded of, which is in season 1 and in the book, Crawley has plants, right? And he once, it's a point in the book that he once read that study that's like, if you play nice music or speak nicely to your plants, they'll tend to grow better. Versus being mad at them. And Crawley took to just threatening his plants that they had better grow right. And I'm like, so yeah, your brain is sort of like a house, right?
Now, see,
you have to talk nicely to it to make it brain.
I feel like that might just be that the caretaker, is influenced by the music to either pay more or less attention to the plants. But what do I know?
What do I know? Yeah, in the book at least, Crawley's plants thrive because
good for him and his plants.
Out into the back and shoots it.
All right, guys, let's take a look at what's coming up on my channel and Maddie's channel. Maddie, your channel, I'm going to go out on a limb and say is linked in the description. Yes, it is.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, I was like, did I do
I'm
this?
going to do another live stream soon. Sorry, everything got a little crazy. Baby girl just had her birthday.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, we're having a big party next week. A bunch of my husband's family is like flying in,
cool.
And I've been a little distracted with baby stuff. But we're gonna do a live stream soon. I've been getting really, really pissed off at Creationist or at Young YUC groups talking about climate change. And so probably just gonna do a good rant reaction video. I had to stop watching Apologia video.
Oh goodness!
Like fact checking a AIG talking about climate change because I was getting so mad.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at what's on this channel. Now, I did have a premiere today that I was not planning on having because I just misscheduled it. It was part 104 of Grady McMurtry Gets Everything Wrong. Part 2 is coming on the 31st, Thursday. So, now, the good news is that video has been doing pretty well. Let me double check how it is now. Yeah, it's currently in second place, right behind Jeffrey Tompkins, The Creationist Who Can't Math, the movie. And ahead of Robert Carter, Liar, Creationists Have a Bad Relation with the Truth, Part 2. I expect it to slip behind that one, too. So, but see, still 3 out of 10 isn't bad. It's a bronze medal. So, that is what's happening on Thursday. Now, on Saturday, that'll be the 2nd of September. I know how months work. That will be me talking with Dr. Zach Hancock evolutionary biologist who focuses on certain groups of crustaceans, about his he used to be young Earth creationist, basically. Isn't now. We're going to talk about his exit from that. So it's leaving young Earth creationism with Zach Hancock. Skeptics and Scoundrels, who's been a member for 5 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, just tuned in. Time to get caught up on 43 drinks. Yes, it is.
God bless you.
So that is Saturday. Currently on the 5th, Kentwith Bent, number 100, whatever it is. So look forward to that. Now, I'm also going to skip ahead to point out that on September 16th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, the plan is to have Dr. Kip Davis on. I'll also have Vishanti on because she's also got a lot to say about this topic. And we're going to talk about Behemoth from Job 40 and how it was actually conceptualized in ancient Jewish culture because, hey, you know what Dr. Kip Davis's specialty is?
Is it Job?
No, but it's ancient Jewish religion.
That's very cool. Another plug for Good Omens Season 2. There's a whole episode on Job.
Nice. So,
every problem you've ever had with that story that's like, this doesn't make sense, pops up. It's great.
So anyway, that is the, that's as far ahead as I'm going to look right now. Please, I hope to see all of you on Thursday. It's going to be a great time. I think the Grady McMurtry series is pretty good. Yes, my audio wasn't great. Sorry about that. Things happen. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I hope to see you all on Thursday. Maddie, unless you have anything else that you really need to put out there, we're going to get out of here. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, team.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovind, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Elron Teller, Phil Havara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Mrs. Specsender, Sphincter of Doom, and the Venerable Bede. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.